today I'm going to demonstrate how to make the Nonna S Cookie. I learned how to do this from my grandmother, who was from the Italian island of Panarea in the Aeolian Islands. It's a very simple recipe as far as the ingredients go. Now, when Grandma made this cookie, she started out with a 5-pound bag of flour. I have cut the recipe in half. So the dry ingredients are going to be flour, sugar, and baking powder. It's as simple as that. It's the ratio of flour to sugar is 2 to 1, so it's 7 cups of flour, 3.5 cups of sugar, and there's a teaspoon of baking powder for every cup of flour. So there's 7 teaspoons of baking powder. So we're going to mix all the dry ingredients, and then the only liquid in this recipe are eggs. It's 10 eggs, which we'll beat till foamy, mix in, knead the dough, and then the dough will be ready. So, let's start. First, I'm going to measure out 7 cups of pre-sifted all-purpose flour. I've used various different flours, but Grandma used gold medal, and I find that the cookies come closest to the way Grandma made it when I used gold medal flour. There we go. One. 7. There's the flour. And now, 3 cups of sugar. 3. And I'm going to approximate a half. One of the nice things about this recipe, it is not that sensitive to having the ingredients in perfectly, or the amount being perfect. And then 7 teaspoons of baking powder. 7. There we go. We then thoroughly mix the dry ingredients. You can use whatever you have on hand, a fork. I'm using this tool. Sometimes I use, an egg beater. Not an egg beater rather, but a whisk, an egg whisk. But you want to make sure that your dry ingredients are evenly mixed. There. Now, 10 extra large eggs. There we go. And now, we beat the eggs. This is an important step. Beat the eggs until foamy. And you gotta stand here and beat a little bit for a while. That's better when it starts to foam up at the top. Okay, that's beaten to foamy. And then the final ingredient, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Pours fast, so be careful. 1, 2. Like that. Okay, so after I add the vanilla extract, I give it a quick beat again to keep it foamy. Go. Okay, here's the messy part. I'm going to add the egg to the dry mixture, and then I'm going to work the egg mixture until we have a homogeneous mixture of dough. It's very sticky. Here's the bowl I'm going to put it in. I have it ready. I have a spoon. I have a rag if you have someone at home who might be there to help you, because once you start with put your fingers in this, it becomes a mess and you have to finish it. You can't answer the phone. You can't do anything else until you're done. So here we go. Goes the egg mixture. And what everyone who does this cookie initially thinks is that is not nearly enough liquid for all this dry material. But it is. You have to work it in with your hands. So here I've just started, and people act incredulously. They say, there's not enough egg. There is enough egg. At least, well, we can't tell yet. We have to keep working the dough like this for several minutes until all the dry mixture has been absorbed and we have purely homogeneous dough. By the way, when Grandma did this, she did this on an open table, and there was flour and dough everywhere. I've bought this big bowl to try to keep things not so messy. And as you can see, as it starts to come around, it starts to hold together more. I think I'm just about done. It's done, and it's a mess, isn't it? So now I'm getting ready to pick it up in a big blob and put it into a bowl. This closer. Come on. There we go. And there we go. How much you want to scrape off your fingers and how much you just want to lick off your fingers, that's up to you. Now, what also makes this cookie a challenge is that it's not ready to bake yet. There's baking powder in the recipe. The dough has to be given a chance to rise a little bit. So, Grandma taught me was cover the top with wax paper. That's to prevent the top layer of dough mixture from drying out and creating like a skin on it. We then take a towel, and this goes in the refrigerator overnight. We're not ready to bake this cookie until tomorrow. So, not that big a deal. So again, covered in wax paper, covered in a dish towel. I don't know why it has to be covered in a dish towel. I just know that that's what my grandmother did. And there it rests until tomorrow. Good morning. It's the next day. The dough has been rising in the refrigerator. So out it comes. Here we go. Now I'm going to start baking right away, but sometimes it's helpful to let the dough warm up a little bit. Give it 15 or 20 minutes when it comes out of the refrigerator. I have in this bowl a mixture of half and half flour and confectioner's sugar. As I've stated, as you've learned from the day before, it's a very sticky dough. So to make sure it doesn't stick to your hands, you dust up your hands. We're going to be dusting up each ball of dough as we work with it. So, we're ready to make the first tray. You take a spoon, and to attain the traditional S shape, you take an amount of dough slightly smaller than a golf ball or a ping pong ball. So, something like that. and I quickly make a ball, which is like that. I've been doing this for a while, so I have a feel of how much I need, but it looks about that much. You then roll it in the flour, confection, or sugar mixture, and then you make a tube of it by rolling it between your hands. And the tube looks like that, and then onto the tray in an S shape like that. You just fold it in. Let's do that again before we go to full speed. There's the lump of dough, about how big it is. Make a rough ball. Roll it in the flour, confection, or sugar. Roll it between your hands, like that. Make an S shape, just like that. Make a tube.
Joe, how many years have you been making this S Cookie?
I learned this from my grandmother when I was 16 years old, which is decades ago, let's just say that. So I have a quick feel. What I'll do is, because the recipe makes about 60 cookies, which is 5 trays of these, you don't want to take too long. This is like the usual speed. Too much.
Have you tried different shapes?
I have. I've tried straight tubes. They all seem to work. But the S shape is traditional. I think when you're baking it, if you use the S shape, it's a longer bake time to get heat into the middle. If you don't use an S shape, the cook time might go down a little bit. But when I was in the Aeolian Islands on vacation, wow, over 10 years ago, and I had some of these cookies, which is, they still make them there. I only saw them in the S shape. I didn't see any other shape. Don't know why. All right, we've got our first tray ready to go. I've already preheated the oven to 450 degrees. And in they go. Baking time is 7 to 9 minutes, although 7's on the low side. They probably won't be done at 7 minutes, more closer to 9. But what I do is, to avoid burning them, I set my timer for 7 minutes. Then when it goes off, I watch them and take them out when I feel that they're done. Let's see if they're done. I've been watching. What you want to look for is the top of the cookie is just starting to get brown. And you'll see, like right there, the cookie's starting to get brown. You'll see it's starting to get brown. That means the cookie is done. Okay. Now they're sort of bread. They're very soft at this point, so you have to. You'll see how delicate they are at this point. They could break. So I get under them and transfer them to the cooling rack. I don't leave them on the tray because I don't want the bottoms to burn. I take them off right away. And there we go. Okay, I'm arranging the cookies on the cooling rack to get ready for the next batch, so there's room. And one thing I just want to show you is that's about right. Like a nice, very light tan bottom is what you're going for. That's what the bottoms, that's what the bottoms look like. That means this cookie is done. There we go. And the last batch has just come out of the oven. Again, this makes about 60 cookies. If you're thinking to yourself, this doesn't look like 60 cookies, it's because we've been eating them as we've been making them. So, take a sample. This is the S Cookie. Break it open. Looks like on the inside, it's, I don't know if you can tell from my fingers, what makes this cookie special is that it's soft, like a lady finger. Not quite as soft as a lady finger, but still soft. Some people might say, well, gee, this is a lot like the Stella D'Oro S Cookie, but that's a hard biscuit. What makes this special, and I've never seen this on sale in an Italian bakery anywhere, is that this is the soft version of the S Cookie. And it's a great dunker, by the way. Coffee or chocolate milk goes great with this cookie. Oh, it's good. Ciao.
Hey, Dad. So listen, when did Nonna begin making the S Cookie?
As I can remember when I was a little kid,
So,
Mom used to make this S Cookie. We used to call them Cosi Douche.
say it again, Cosi Douche?
Cosi Douche, which means sweet things.
Gotcha. Now, do you have any special memories of the S Cookie?
Of course.
Did you make them on special holidays? Is that what
We
happened?
We used to make them on a holiday.
Gotcha.
The usual thing to make cookies. Because it takes a long time to make a cookie.
Now, where did she make them back in the house?
Well, we used to have a cellar with a stove and a kitchen, and also that's where the wine cellar was.
Oh,
So we used to make the cookies down in the cellar, in the cellar oven.
in the basement oven.
Bake them there and put them overnight, and then make the cookies and hide them.
She used to hide them from you?
You hide them from me, because I would find them and eat it, anything I could, because I love those cookies.
Now, did the wine ever mix with the cookies when Nonna was making
I
them?
don't mix the wine with cookies.
Never mixed them up, okay.
No.
Out of all your brothers and sisters, who liked the cookie the best? I guess it was you.
Yeah, I love the cookies.
Now, how does Joe's cookie compare to Nonna's cookies?
Pretty good. He made them pretty
It
good.
made them pretty good?
Yeah. He came pretty close to the original.
Original, gotcha. All right, so Dad, thanks for this interview. Ciao.
Ciao.
All right.
Arrivederci.
So Joe, what were the circumstances that you learned to make this cookie?
Oh, well, I guess I was a teenager. I was like 16 years old, and our grandmother, Angela Tesoriero, Nonna to us, was visiting, and I thought, you know, she's not getting any younger, and someone ought to get the recipe for the cookie before she stops making the cookie, before she's too old to make the cookie. So she would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and spend most of the morning making a giant batch of cookies. So I decided to wake up with her. This was like at 5 a.m. And luckily my mom woke up too to act as translator, because my Italian wasn't good enough to take down what she was doing. And so basically she just did it by feel and look. So she would make the cookie and we would stop her every now and then and measure or ask her what she was doing. And she was a tough teacher. If I wasn't doing it right, she let me know, especially the part where you knead the dough. you know, after about 2 minutes of kneading that thick, heavy dough, I thought I was done, but she said, oh no. She was a strong lady too. She had big, strong hands. She embarrassed me into, you know, working the dough a little harder.
So how old was Nonna, you think, when she taught you?
Well, this was like in the mid-70s, so she was maybe 75
Wow.
or so. I was like 15 or 16, something like that. And so then, after that, I tried to make it myself, and I failed several times. I just wasn't doing it right until I finally got the hang of it. And that's where things stood. I just would make it for myself or my brothers and my father every now and then. And then when I got married, my wife thought it would be a lovely gesture if I included the cookie as the wedding favor. And so each person was to get 3 cookies, and we had about 120 guests. So that meant 360 cookies, which I thought was impossible. But that's when I learned that these cookies freeze well. After you bake them, you can throw them in the freezer, and it's like freezing a loaf of bread. You know, and then they defrost very quickly. If you take the cookies out of the freezer, they're defrosted in 5 minutes. So that's the way that, by the way, if you want to make a big batch, you could freeze them and save them.
Wow. So when you talk about your wedding, you're talking about your lovely bride over here. I'm gonna get Hillary in.
Lovely Hillary.
Hillary, it was your idea to make the cookies. Great.
It was. There was a lot of resistance to that, but when we talked to guests after the wedding, one of the things they commented on the most was it was great to have the cookies.
So that, with that, the extended family, you know, my cousins and my aunts and my uncles learned I knew how to make the cookies, so I've started baking them more and more. So far, I only know of one other relative, my niece, my brother Michael's oldest daughter, Nicole, has learned to make the cookie. I had given her the recipe years ago. What I'm hoping a little bit from this video is that other relatives see the video, make the cookie, and send me some.
Oh. Well, now that I know, I'm going to give it a shot.
Okay.
Because I was only a little kid when the recipe was passed down to you.
Yeah, so.
All right. Well, that's the story behind Nonna S Cookies.